In these dark and trying times, you have to ask yourself, what would Avasarala do? Well, she'd say a bunch of cuss words and fire everybody. So we're going to do that now, except everybody gets to keep their job. Hey, what's up, bookworms and Beltalota? Mike back again today to talk a little more Expanse as we're dipping into 2012's Caliban's War. This is book number 2 of the Expanse series by James S.A. Corey. That is Ty Frank and Daniel Abraham's team-up name, their superhero name. When they're like Voltron, when they come together, that's what they make. They make James S.A. Corey. This is a series I think just about everyone has heard about. I don't know if enough people have read it because I think the pickings are pretty slim on BookTube about this series, but it seems like everyone who reads it really does enjoy it. Most people know it more now for the Sci-Fi and Prime Video adaptation. That's obviously where I have first really experienced it. But I got really into the books, and I'll tell you why. I've only read as far as book number 2 as we go along here. Now, this is part of the Orbit Books official reread. They are putting together a reread done by content creators as they lead up to the release of Leviathan Falls, the final book in the Expanse series coming out this fall. And book number 2, well, it is yours truly doing that. So, guys, I loved Leviathan Wakes. And I was very excited to continue. So this is going to be spoiler-free, but I'm going to have to mention a couple of events that happened from book 1. So if you want to be completely spoiler-free in the series, I'd probably wait and come back after you've at least read Leviathan Wakes. I think that I'm not really going to ruin too much for you, but there is going to be something about the fate of certain characters from book number 1 that I kind of have to reference because I got to kind of talk about where they're at right now in the storyline. So you have been warned, guys. So the question here is, was this a one-hit wonder? Is this a sophomore slump with book number 2? When you get into a series that's this long, sometimes you get a little bit of rough starts after that initial success. Did it happen here? Well, we are going to talk about it. Let's begin as usual, guys, by talking about what is the book about. Now, on the Jupiter moon of Ganymede, the breadbasket of the outer planets, Marcia Marie Bobby Draper watches as her platoon is slaughtered by a monstrous super soldier, confirming we are not alone in the universe. On Earth, Christian Abassarala, assistant to the Undersecretary of Executive Administration, struggles to prevent interplanetary war from reigning. And on Venus, an alien protomolecule has overrun the planet, wreaking massive, mysterious changes and threatening to spread out into the solar system. But in the vast wilderness of space, James Holden and the crew of the Rocinante have been keeping the peace for the Outer Planets Alliance. When they agree to help scientist Praxidiki Ming search war-torn Ganymede for a missing child, the future of humanity rests on whether a single ship can prevent an alien invasion that may or may not have already begun as Earth and Mars continue to point weapons at one another. And guys, that takes us into Caliban's War, book number 2 of The Expanse. We're going to dip right in like usual, guys, and get into what makes this book good or bad. There is a ton of good here. Right out of the bag, I'm going to tell you guys, this is an excellent follow-up to book number 1. I was very pleased with it. But the good thing here is the new characters. I felt like I love my crew from the Rocinante. I thought that crew was really established very well in book 1. You got very attached to them really quick. But this one introduces some new characters and expands his cast a little bit. And you kind of had that feeling where like, all right, well, hey, I got to kind of keep you at arm's distance here because I got my crew here. Now you're trying to get me with a bunch of new POV characters. But I'm here to tell you guys, they are fantastic. Christian Abassarala is my favorite character in the Expanse universe, and it really doesn't take long in this book for she is really I mentioned that she cusses a lot. Now, yes, guys, she cusses like a sailor in this book, but it takes more than bad language to get me on board. I think that she just exudes power. Every time she walks in a room, she is in control. You know, even with like her superiors, or she's really very much even above them. I think that she even gets their respect, and it's just one of those things where she just every time she walks in a room, like I said, she is in control and everyone is paying attention and you're anxious to see what she does next. She's just, she's such a spectacular character that you kind of see when you're looking, and I'm not going to talk about the show a lot, guys, but you kind of see in the television show why they wrote her into season 1, because she's such a popular character for a reason. And I think introducing her in the setting of book number 1 was probably a really, really great idea. It's one of those kind of things, like, I wish it almost like they could go back and release like a director's cut of Leviathan Wakes now and show things from her point of view. So seeing the politics on Earth firsthand with her is a really, really great touch here. Another new character, Praxidiki, or is commonly known as Prax. Now, he's here to be your Michael Crichton character, your scientist that's there to explain the science to you, and done in a way where it doesn't feel like it's forced exposition. And it's done very, very well. Having him really explain these things to Amos a lot really helps, because I don't want to say he dumbs it down, but he puts it into terms that someone like Amos can understand. And I think it's very, very well done here. And I think with the departure of Miller from the crew here, he just kind of steps in and fills that void rather effortlessly. I love his little storyline that he has in this one. And if you are the parents of a young child, this has what I like to call dad shit, in that it is going to tug at the heartstrings a little bit, and you're rooting for this character to be reunited with his daughter the whole time. And I really enjoy the relationship that him and Amos kind of, almost like a big brother, little brother kind of relationship, inadvertently, I think, that him and Amos kind of develop is really good. And it's a character I like a lot. I hope that we do see him more in the series, because it does feel very closed off with him in this one, like it could just be a one-off. I'm not sure, but a really, really great story. And it's one of those things, like I said, you're bringing this new character into this established group, and you're kind of like, I don't know about this, but he fits right in with that crew in the Rocinante, and I like him quite a bit. Now, Bobby took a little bit longer to grow on me. Not because she was a Martian or anything. Like, I'm not pulling any allegiances here. Just because I'm an Earthling doesn't mean that I'm like oh no, not the MCRN or not. No, it's not like that. It was just I don't know. She kind of seemed like the character who was there just to like punch everything in the face real hard. But when you get her around Avasarala, all of a sudden it's like, well, she's not the strongest female in the room, and I think that matters, and it helps her build character, and the rapport that those two build together is just phenomenal. And I think by the end of this, she's just basically a superhero when she's in her like suit there, and it's so cool. It's so cool. It's a character I very much know is a mainstay in the series, so I'm excited to see how she progresses going forward. But I really, really, really like what they did. Slow burn with her in this book, because like I said, at first it's kind of like, the way it starts off, you're thinking, okay, we're gonna get this whole other crew. It doesn't exactly go that way. And that's not a spoiler, guys. It's on the dust jacket, okay? So you're kind of like, all right, well, what are we doing with this character here? But it's cool to get a point of view from the from a Martian in this one. I like that quite a bit. So it really does continue to develop the worlds here, and it does that a lot more in this book, I think. But like I said, the relationship with her and Avasarala is just perfect. I as far as the crew on the Rocinante, I'm not going to get specific into them, but yeah, they continue to grow closer. Two of the characters continue to get really closer, and it really kind of started in the last one. But it's done well. It's done well. I feel like it's a really bad or a forced romance. I'm always going to tell you, and I don't think so. I think it's done pretty well. But I love all four of those characters. I think that they're great together. And it's just that kind of crew that you would like to be a part of, And like I said, Prax does kind of fit in there. But if you're concerned about, okay, well, they're adding new characters, what about my main crew? Those guys, they're all here. They're all still great, and they're all still developing. And you're getting lots of answers, but you're getting some more hooks for potential future books, as we do know now that there are 7 more after this. But I can see you reading this at the time, wondering, oh, what are they going to do with this? What are they going to do with that? But it does all kind of start here. I also like the mystery in this book. Obviously, you had questions about the protomolecule. You get more. You get a few answers, but you get more questions. I feel like this book is kind of almost like not really standalone-ish. I think that books 1 and 2 kind of feel like they could be like the first arc of this story, because you get your answers with that, with Mao and all those things. You get a lot of those answers, but you get lots more questions about the protomolecule, the super soldier, and all that stuff. But guys, the political maneuvering in this, the politics in this are some of the best that I have ever seen in science fiction. And I know I haven't read as much science fiction as everyone else probably has out there that's probably saying, well, you haven't read this, or this. That's true. But I think about any of the sci-fi I've read, maybe Star Wars and some of those that later Thrawn books by Timothy Zahn maybe had some really, really good politics. And some of the stuff in New Jedi Order is really, really good. This blows that away. This blows away Hyperion, a Fall of Hyperion. It blows away any of that stuff I've seen. Maybe even Ender's Game. I mean, this is the best politics that I've read in a science fiction book, and not just what's going on with the United Nations, what's going on Mars and things like that. It's just really good stuff. It is good political maneuvering in a way that never ever gets tiring of reading, because I know sometimes it can get like, okay, well, this is just really, really cliche. No, there are twists and turns, there are surprises, there are betrayals, there's backstabbings, and there's some characters doing some things that you really wouldn't expect, and seeing them from Avasarala's point of view is just phenomenal. I love the way that she goes about her business, put that way. I like the way that they're kind of expanding the map. I've said in my previous review of Leviathan Wakes, I said that, hey, we're still staying in our solar system, but really in that one, you really just do Earth, Mars, and the Belt. This one, you go a little further out there. We're not going to Interstellar yet, obviously. We're pretty much staying in, we are staying in our own solar system here. But, we get to know about Ganymede, about Jupiter, stuff like that. And I feel like they're just kind of slowly expanding the area that they're going to use as their sandbox here. And it's really, really great. I love the way they're kind of doing that in a way where it doesn't feel like, okay, well, hey, we're going to play in the whole solar system. Well, let's go do stuff on Neptune now. But no, it does it in a great way where it's slowly expanding, and you can just see it getting further and further as the series goes along. And guys, this has one hell of a shocking ending. Now, it does have kind of a slow build-up, but like Leviathan Wakes, it is worth it, because the payoff in the third act is just kick-ass. And yeah, that cliffhanger on this, I've said I feel like the story is very kind of closed-ended, but it does leave you with one massive, massive hook on the ending, and we will talk about that a little bit more when I talk about my final thoughts. Let's talk about a couple of bad things here, because there are no perfect books, guys, right? I feel like the authors, they're still kind of perfecting their dialogue here. I know that Daniel Abraham was a fantasy writer before this, but it's not that I feel like the dialogue is that different between sci-fi and fantasy. I don't know. There's some things where it's like, that doesn't feel like something that someone would say in real life in that situation. You're going to have a couple instances like that, I think. You're going to have moments where you think, I don't know if that's exactly what someone would actually say, or I can take that seriously, or like, who would say that right now? But again, I feel like that's saying that obviously this is very early in the series. They're still kind of working some things out. But again, it's never nothing that takes you out of the story. But it is something that, like I said, I'm not a prose snob, and even I noticed it. So you might have a few problems with that. There's some stiff dialogue, but nothing that's going to ruin anything for you. I love that they continue to keep the science pretty soft to where you can understand it. Like Prax gets a little into like the biology of plants and stuff, but never in a way you're not going to understand it, I don't think. Like I said, a very, very Crichton way to where the everyman can understand it. This book does feel a touch over long. It just comes in just under 600 pages. And it's one of those things where I'm like, look, I know now that the buildup was worth it, but while you're in the thick of it, you're going to start to feel like this is starting to drag. You're going to feel like that. There are some couple times where it feels like, well, that storyline could have been ended off right there, but it almost felt like you added about 3 more chapters just to make the book longer. And that's never fun. And I know these books are all about the same length, really. And I don't know if that's the pacing that they're going to use the entire run of the series. I can see that getting a little long in the tooth if they continue to do that. But it's worth it. Like I said, just struggle through it. It's never to a point where like I'm going to put this down, never pick it up again. But there are going to be some points where like, oh, not this again. Yeah, so there are a couple things that go a little over long. And I'm not necessarily call it bad because you don't know at this point, but it does feel kind of standalone-ish. I mean, there was big ideas that were presented in Leviathan Wakes, and you think, okay, this is going to be like an overarching mystery of this entire series. No, it's over by book 2. And you're like, I mean, it's cool to get so many answers, but it's like, wow, it almost feels like a duology. This almost feels like a duology with a couple of unanswered questions. It's kind of how it feels. I didn't expect them to give. It sounds weird to say it's bad that they're giving me too many answers up front. It's just a lot of the mystery that I had that I thought was going to be kind of, some question marks I had the entire run. I feel like I've already been answered. They might have been answered a little too quick. But, not knowing what comes next, who knows? Who knows? It could be a big thing. It's just, like the big bad I thought was going to be much bigger of a bad than he turned out to be. And, we'll talk about that in the comments maybe if you guys want to. Let's get into, guys, why I think that you should read it. Look, The Expanse is some of the best sci-fi I've read. Yes, I've read, compared to fans, I've read a lot of science fiction, if you count Star Wars. I mean, Dune is my favorite science fiction book of all time, or my favorite book of all time, and yes, it's a sci-fi book. Read over 70 Star Wars novels. I just read Hyperion this year. I've read Ender's Game before. I've read a lot of sci-fi, but it's just like, compared to fantasy, I have not. So take that for what you will. I haven't read like Alistair Reynolds or Peter F. Hamilton, things like that, or Gene Wolfe. So it might be easy for me to sit here and say it's the best sci-fi I've read. It's just I didn't know that hard sci-fi, and it's weird to call it hard sci-fi, But I mean, I don't know what else to call it, because they get so much into things like what the gravity is doing and stuff like that, and how it is in space travel that I don't really see in science fiction books that I really read before. So maybe some of you guys who have read heavier, popular science level novels and stuff, yeah, you might be like, this is dimwit, this is dummy stuff. To me, I think it's just right. It's the right balance where I feel like you don't have to have a PhD in astrophysics to understand what's going on. And what I like the most about this series is it feels like a believable future. This is like just 300 years from now. I don't think there's actually a specific date. I've heard a rumor it's 2350 is what year it's supposed to be, but never explicitly say it, at least not in these first two books. But okay, so 300 years from now, you could see this being a believable future. This is where we could actually be. There is no light speed. There is no like Chewie, punch it, and hey, we're in Neptune. There's none of that. It's really is just very much space travel. Still takes a long time. Yeah, they got the Epstein drive, so things happen quicker. You look at the technology. They still got phones basically, but they're a little different than we expect. It's a believable future, and that's what I've always liked about this series. And Caliban's War continues that. Everything that they established in book 1 is just built upon here, and just it's great, guys. It really is just a great setting and a believable future, like I said. And it's one of the biggest things about this is that it feels like, yeah, humanity has evolved, right? I mean, we've expanded through the solar system and things like that. A lot of our old common prejudices are gone. But are they? Or have they just been moved to different things now? And that's a very big theme of this series. No longer is it about the races. It's about, hey, are you an Earthling, are you a Belter, or are you a Martian? And again, guys, the dialect in these books is so fun to play with. I'm gonna call you Beltalota earlier, but boss man, I'd be taking all my things with these kids. All these things I say to my kids, we secretly like Cajun. They're like, "What are you doing?" Yeah, Space Cajun, as I like to call it. But it's such a fun book to read, guys. I think that you guys are gonna have a blast with it. But yeah, just the great character work that they do in this, and I love it. It never feels like heavy-handed social politics. It really feels like in-world politics of this time period, where we would be at that time. Because we know that humanity's not going to change; it's just going to evolve a little bit, right? But at what point do we, lose our identity, become subhuman, things like that? All these ideas are presented, guys, and I think that that's why you're going to love this series and this book if you decide to give it a go. Now, if I had some final thoughts, look, guys, I had an amazing time with Caliban's War. People have asked me, well, you liked it this much. Why have you only read 2 of the books in the series? Here is the deal. I was liking the show so much. I liked the show, and I decided to go ahead and pick up book number 1. And book number 1 went past season 1. And I got to the point where I started reading book 2, and I was like, I feel like I'm ruining all the big twists in book number 2, right? In season 2. So I decided I was just going to stay behind the TV show, because really, guys, I love that show, and I felt like this is like the most shock I've had watching a television series since watching like them early seasons of Vikings or Game of Thrones, where I was really just invested in it, and I didn't want those moments ruined for me. So I decided I was never going to catch up to the show. And then when it was time for me to catch up, in books 3 and 4 for the show, started doing this Malazan read along, and it just kind of fell by the wayside. So it's one of those things now where I intend to binge the hell out of this next year and keep going with books 3 through 9. Now that's going to be complete. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Probably do like a book a month kind of thing. Malazan read along ends in June next year, and then I can see myself just kind of rolling through these. As for Caliban's War, guys, I say if you like Leviathan Wakes, you're going to be right at home with this one. You're going to love it. You're going to love the new characters, the new settings, and the new plot. It's going to kick your ass in a great way. Setup and characters just as good as the last one, and it just keeps on cranking it to 11, guys. So I'm very excited about where this series is going in the future. Now, if you'd like to participate in the Orbit Books read-along, I'm going to be passing the keys to Liz from Liz Loves Books. She has an Instagram. She also has a website, lizlovesbooks.com. She's going to be continuing this with Abaddon's War, which is book number 3. So check the description below. I'm going to give you guys a link to her page if you want to check that out and read along with her. I think it's going to be a great time. So guys, that was Caliban's War. Have you read it? What did you think? Drop in the comments and let me know, and I will talk to you there, boss man.